A very warm welcome to IDFC First Bank presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 12. I'm Ritwika Gupta. Tonight on the show, we'll be focusing on the defense and aerospace manufacturing industry. In conversation with Mr. Pavan Ranga, CEO, Rangsons Aerospace. Welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow, Mr. Pavan.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
So to begin with, give us an overview of the current opportunities in India's defense, manufacturing and aerospace industry.
Sure. If you look at India as an aerospace engineering manufacturing hub, we're fairly nascent as a ecosystem because historically most of the aerospace manufacturing was done by the defense PSUs such as HAL, some at BDL, ordnance factories. But really private sector participation has started very recently, beginning with the Tatas and the Mahindras and some of the larger companies. And then in the last 10 years, we've seen a whole host of small and medium enterprises come into the defense and aerospace manufacturing ecosystem. I think while this is the case, I think it is extraordinarily exciting going forward for India as a global defense and aerospace engineering manufacturing hub.
Now, just picking up from what you mentioned about being Atmanirbhar, Rangsons Aerospace has been instrumental in contributing to India's self-reliance in defense manufacturing. Could you briefly share how your vision aligns with India's Atmanirbhar initiative?
America and Europe really were searching for solutions because the civil aviation demand just took off post-COVID. Now, historically, they would have run to China and, the Southeast. Geopolitically, that was a no-go. And India happened to place the largest aircraft order in the history of aviation, the 1,200 aircrafts order that Indian companies gave to Airbus and Boeing. So what happened in the last 4 years is there's a floodgate that's opened up for aerospace manufacturers and engineering companies in India. Now, what this actually does is what we have experienced is it really gives us a platform to become world-class because we work with all these large global OEMs. Now, while we do this, at the same time, the Indian MOD is promoting development programs. Now, companies that say, I am willing to develop a product or a system or a technology in the line of replacing an import called Import Substitution Initiative. The Indian MOD is supporting us with Make One programs and Make Two programs, essentially to encourage companies to develop technologies in this country.
Sure.
Now, the two of them come together, world-class manufacturing, knowledge, know-how, engineering competence, and core R&D and product development supported by the Indian MOD, come together, and companies like Rangsons, and especially led by Rangsons, because we believe we are one of the few companies in this country very actively participating with the Indian MOD, at the same time a global partner to aerospace majors like Boeing, Airbus, Honeywell, GE, the list goes on and on. We started off developing a line of airborne cooling systems, also called thermal management systems, starting with cold plates, heat exchangers, air cycling machines, liquid cooling systems, and so on. Now, this was homegrown, home-developed technologies, IPs owned by Rangsons in our R&D lab in Bangalore. Now, over the years, not only were we able to deliver to the Indian MOD because they supported us, we've now taken it to our global customers as well. So our products, our technologies are now kind of becoming world class, forced to become world class, because we are now not only doing Atmanirbhar, but we're also doing from India to the world in cutting edge technologies. Second, in terms of bringing technology into India, not everything can be developed ground up, because of the gestation periods involved in qualification and so on. So we went and acquired technology.
And well, coming from the legacy of N. Ranga Rao and Sons, how has Rangsons Aerospace leveraged its heritage to build a strong foundation in aerospace and defense?
There are multiple ways in which we leverage our rich legacy. Um, Starting with some fundamental core values that have been imbibed in every group company of ours. Some very simple things like customer first, focus on the customer's needs. Everything else should be built around the customer's needs. Relentless pursuit of excellence in quality, quality of product, quality of service, all of that. And finally, we as NR Group, we have more than 5,000 people, many of them who have been working with us over decades. And so over the years, our core value has taught us that you need to treat your employees like your extended family.
Right.
Now, this fits very well in the aerospace segment because a lot of knowledge in aerospace manufacturing, critical manufacturing, it's like tribal knowledge. You don't get it through training. You have to get it on the job.
Okay.
NR Group, our flagship company, N. Ranga and Sons, is one of the few companies that are certified carbon neutral. We take away some of the values from on that dimension as well. And Rangsons Aerospace today is moving towards becoming carbon neutral as well. And that is respected by a lot of our customers because we are in the aerospace business, and aerospace inherently is a lot of fuel consumption and other things.
The theme for our show this season is powering entrepreneurs for the global stage. And in aerospace and defense, strategic global partnerships are key to scaling capabilities. Could you tell us about your recent partnership with Oversat and how do you approach international collaborations?
Look, like I said, if you are a product technology company, you define yourself as one. Not all technologies in defense and aerospace can be developed from scratch, ground up, because the gestation periods are just too long to make them commercially viable. So partnerships on the technology front becomes imperative, and all several companies and countries around the world are looking at India as a very important and interesting market for defense and aerospace technologies. Now, Oversat, for example, is one such partnership that we have recently embarked on. Now, most companies in India, when they talk about an MOU or agreement, usually it's a very loosely used word, MOUs and agreements to represent their product here. But at Rangsons, most of these partnerships have significant investment from us and investment from our side and their side into the initiative. In the case of Oversat, for example, we've actually invested, and now we are a shareholder, a significant shareholder of Oversat.
Sure.
For us, when we talk about technology partnerships or business partnerships, it's not just some MOU or contract signing, but it's a very serious relationship that we get into, because we want to bring in the technologies from outside into India, establish it, and over time, develop the competence to have our own IPs in that space. So satellite communications, satellite antenna terminals is one vertical. We are doing a similar initiatives in several verticals. We're doing that with another company in the data link space, where we do point-to-point communication solutions for data links. We're doing a similar kind of a partnership. We were almost on the verge of an announcement where we're investing money and picking up equity in a company in the airborne thermal management space, where they're having a very interesting technology for air cycling machines.
Sure.
We already have significant tier one partnerships and relationships with all the aerospace majors. But what is important, if you want to become an even closer partner, is to have a global presence. So Rangsons is actively also looking at inorganic growth. We're looking at the US market. Hopefully, in the next 3 quarters, we'll be announcing an acquisition in the US market.
It's time for a quick break here. We'll be back shortly. Stay tuned. Welcome back to IDFC First Bank Presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 12 in conversation tonight with Pavan Ranga, CEO, Rangsons Aerospace. So, Mr. Pavan, MSMEs play a crucial role in the defense and aerospace supply chain. But tell us, what challenges do smaller companies face in this sector?
The MSMEs obviously play a very important role in the development or the emergence of the defense and aerospace sector in India. MSMEs in automotive aspiring to move into aerospace and defense manufacturing, and the ancillaries who have been present in aerospace as very small enterprises in industrial hubs like Pina or other places,
Sure,
are actually adding competencies and becoming from small, micro to small, small to medium, medium to large enterprises. Now, what challenge do they face? Fundamentally, I see smaller companies have two challenges. First, usually smaller companies don't have the luxury of thinking very long term. But if you want to be a serious player in an industry like defense and aerospace, you must think long term because your returns on investment is not immediate. You're putting a lot of effort and cost and investment upfront for returns that you will see over time, over long periods of time. This is one. The second thing, while the government has made a lot of schemes available to MSMEs for capital availability, there is a significant gap in working capital that companies need in this industry and what is available.
And well, in such a complex industry, how can startups and small businesses build credibility and compete with larger players?
Truth be told, I don't think small companies and startups should look at themselves to compete with large players because everybody has a role to play, in an ecosystem. If you look at what a large company can't do, that a small company can do, is a small company can be very nimble and quick, and you need that that ability to create a very successful manufacturing ecosystem.
Sure.
Second, if you look at what a startup can do that a large company can't do, a startup can think out of the box. They have the luxury of not having boundaries. So, if you look at, for example, some of the new drone technologies, if you look at some of the new software identification, image processing technologies, even in defense and aerospace, they've all come from startups. It's not come from the large companies. So I think every segment of companies and industries have a role to play in creating a holistic manufacturing technology ecosystem for defense and aerospace.
Now, developing a skilled workforce is also essential for the aerospace and defense industry, especially with the rise of Industry 4.0. So what initiatives, does Rangsons Aerospace have in place to train and upskill engineers and technicians for the evolving demands of the sector?
I was surprised to know in all of India, qualified aerospace aluminum alloy welders, for example, are only 120 or 150. And when I did my projection, we needed a couple of hundred of them in the next few quarters. So what did we do? We set up a one-of-a-kind weld school within Rangsons. And this weld school, we got Boeing on board as a collaborative partner because we needed somebody to bring in world-class curriculum and training. So we have a lab and a theory training area here. And we established this, and now after 2 years, we are getting batches of very highly trained and knowledgeable welders out. Now, this is on welding. Then we said, what are the other competencies that where we need to establish literally like a finishing school, right? Now we've started a similar initiative in the engineering side.
Sure.
Because we are getting so many new programs and we don't have the aerospace engineering bandwidth in India. So we are taking engineers from different industries and we are aligning them and training them to think and become aerospace engineers. We have no choice but to establish these kind of very specialized, specific training platforms. And they also get on-the-job training on the side.
And what kind of policy support or reforms would you like to see from the government to accelerate the growth of India's defense and aerospace industry?
I must say the government, the Ministry of Defense especially, and Ministry of Science and Technology, Department of Science and Technology, have come out with very meaningful initiatives that finally encourages Indian companies and global companies to work together to bring technologies to India. So I'm very thankful and I'm very glad that the government has finally found the right set of policies for that. But if you ask me, what are the additional policies that the government can look at? Companies like us that are investing significantly into technology don't end up seeing a meaningful production order for years. It is a challenge, I understand. But if India needs to become a very serious product technology player, then the government needs to come out with a policy where companies putting in real money and hard work to develop local technologies need to see faster order cycles.
Sure.
And the second thing, from a financial standpoint, like I said earlier, even companies that are of size, are finding that you have a lot of policies and schemes available for capital, for fixed cap, but for working capital, there is very few options available. And Indian banks don't have sophisticated products. So if I have a project that needs funding over 2.5, 3 years, a working capital construct will not work. It has to be looked at like a infrastructure project funding and financing. But that a lot of banks don't have that option. So the government, I urge the government to look at policies that will help companies in defense and aerospace from a working capital solutioning standpoint. These are the two major areas, I think, where policy is required.
Finally, tell us, going forward, what is the road ahead and your vision for Rangsons Aerospace in the next 5 to 10 years?
Like I said, right, Rangsons Aerospace is one of the few companies in India who has a very balanced presence in both global aerospace and Indian MOD ecosystem. Now, the way we want to leverage this is we develop products for the Indian MOD because they support us with programs and orders for development. But once we develop a system, we make sure that we take it to a world-class level and sell it around the world to our already existing customers.
Sure.
To give you an example, we developed a very interesting vapor cooling system for one of the Indian MOD establishments, DRDO. And we got an order from the Indian MOD for a couple of hundred numbers that their need was only that much. But we took it to one of our global customers, Honeywell in this case. And, Honeywell found it very exciting. And they said, look, if you have a solution like this, we'd be more than happy to come to India and explore this. And, over the last 12 months,
sure,
we worked around developing a similar product to them. And now we have multiple thousands of numbers of forecasts from them over years. So I think developing for the Indian MOD, but taking the product to the world market is the strategy that we will continue to adopt across all our product verticals. And secondly, we are going to become more and more global because I think there's a lot of technology to be brought into the country. So we will do that both organically and inorganically.
Okay.
So I think in the next 5 to 10 years, maybe 10 years is a long way away, But in the next 5 years, you will see Rangsons clearly positioned as an aerospace defense product technology leader in India and beyond, of course.
Well, all the very best, Mr. Pavan. Thank you so much for chatting with us here on ET Now Leaders of Tomorrow.
Pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much.
With that, it's a wrap on this episode of IDFC First Bank Presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 12. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.